Hey guys, Sithis here, and in this video, I'm going to explain why I think the minimum wage should be completely abolished. Fundamentally, the minimum wage is a violation of private property rights because it forces an individual to pay someone more than they would otherwise agree to in a free market. If a business owner and a worker come together and agree to a wage, the state should have no say in the matter. Using the state to force business owners to pay individuals more than they would under a free market is not only a property rights violation, but it also has many unintended consequences, and can actually harm the people it is supposed to help. The first negative consequence is that it leads to higher rates of unemployment. Not every business can afford to pay all of its employees the arbitrary wage set by the state. As a result, businesses are forced to either cut back on their workforce or refrain from hiring new employees. This reduces the number of jobs available, leaving more people unemployed. Businesses pay workers based on the productivity they bring. If the state forces businesses to pay workers more than the value of their productivity, those businesses will lose money. This could lead to layoffs, or in extreme cases, the business shutting down entirely, resulting in even more unemployment. For example, if I own a burger shop and my employee generates $12 an hour in productivity, paying them more than $12 an hour would result in a loss. Over time, such losses could force businesses to close, leaving all employees without a job. Thomas Sowell summed this up perfectly when he said, "The real minimum wage is zero. That's what many people receive when they lose their jobs or fail to get hired because of minimum wage laws." And he's right. If the law makes it illegal to hire someone below a certain rate, those people simply don't get hired. That's not help. That's harm. And here's the thing. This isn't some fringe idea. Austrian economists like Ludwig von Mises pointed out ages ago that minimum wage laws don't create jobs. They just make certain jobs illegal. If the government says you can't pay someone less than $15 an hour, then every job offer below that just disappears. That's not compassion. That's coercion. The second negative consequence of raising the minimum wage is higher prices for everyday goods and services. Businesses have limited resources to cover their expenses. If the state mandates higher wages, businesses will either cut costs elsewhere or increase prices to make up the difference. Many businesses choose to pass their costs on to consumers, raising the prices of their goods and services.
The owner of Midtown Tavern near First and Prince says this is not a new problem for local business owners.
It's been ongoing for the last couple of years. People don't seem to realize when the wages go up, the prices of things go up.
The owner, Frank Silverman, says even though he has to pay his employees more, the price for his alcohol and food providers increased as well.
We get notices almost weekly now that their prices are going up 2%, 3%, 5%, and we just have to pass that on.
This means higher wages are offset by increased cost of living, negating the benefits of the wage hike. Essentially, people might earn more, but will also spend more, leaving them no better off financially. Thomas Sowell pointed out the absurdity of this kind of thinking when he said, "You cannot raise the pay of some people without lowering the pay of others, or increasing unemployment." It's simple economics. If you artificially raise wages, the money has to come from somewhere. Either someone else gets paid less, someone gets fired, or prices go up. There's no magic switch where everyone just gets more money and nothing bad happens.
On one hand, I'm happy to make more money, but specifically if it threatens the business of the place I work at, this independent restaurant, then it can be seen as a negative thing.
This was my dream, to own my own cafe, to run it how I want to, and to really be in service to people. I've cried every day.
The tough decision to close is due to several reasons, but Karina tells me the final straw is the city's increasing minimum wage.
Just for me, the increase would cost me $32,000 more a year. The hardest thing that has really been for me to close is taking a safe space away from people. The stories of what it meant to people to come in and feel safe and to feel welcomed. I didn't know.
And here's something the media never talks about. Big corporations love the minimum wage. Why? Because it helps them wipe out the competition. Large companies like Amazon, McDonald's, and Walmart can afford to pay higher wages. They got automation, the scale, the capital reserves. So when the government raises the minimum wage, they're fine. They just raise prices slightly, maybe trim some hours, and move on. Meanwhile, the mom and pop store down the street, the small diner, the independent warehouse, they can't keep up. These small businesses get crushed under the weight of forced wage hikes. They either lay people off, cut hours, or go out of business altogether.
Ritu Shah Burnham doesn't want to go out of business, but says she can't afford the city's mandated wage hikes.
I've let one person go since April 1st. I've cut hours since April 1st. I've taken them myself because I don't pay myself. I've also raised my prices a little bit. Yeah, I mean, there's no other way to do it. I know that I would have stayed here had I had 7 years just like everyone else and had an even playing field. The discrimination that I'm feeling towards my small business right now makes me not want to stay and do anything in Seattle.
And once they're gone, the big players scoop up the market share. This isn't an accident. This is regulatory capture. It's when big businesses use government regulation as a weapon to lock out competitors. Thomas Sowell saw this coming decades ago. He said, "The minimum wage law is one of the most powerful tools in the arsenal of those who want to eliminate competition." So when politicians talk about fighting for workers by raising the minimum wage, what they're really doing is helping corporate giants eliminate the little guy. It's dressed up like compassion, but it's cartel economics. And just like every cartel, it screws over the consumer and the worker in the long run. Now, to all the liberals and leftists who are screaming in the background, but wait, what about this study that shows raising the minimum wage didn't cause unemployment? First off, there's a big difference between correlation and causation. Just because the unemployment rate didn't crash right after a wage hike doesn't mean the wage hike didn't have a negative effect. There are always other factors at play. Maybe there was a tech boom, or a massive increase in government spending that kept things afloat. Maybe the businesses in that area decided to keep their employees and instead raise the prices of their goods and services, or just not hire any new employees. That doesn't mean the policy was smart. It just means the effects were hidden or delayed. Also, who's to say that the unemployment rate would have been lower if the minimum wage was not implemented in the first place? The problem is that we can only see what did happen, not what could have happened. That's what Austrian economists called the seen and the unseen. What we see is the official unemployment number staying the same or even going down after a wage hike. What we don't see is how many more people could have gotten hired if businesses weren't forced to pay higher wages. We don't see the small businesses that never opened, the second location that never got built, or the entry-level worker who never got that first job. And we definitely don't see the deals that never happened. Imagine a teenager who would have happily worked for $8 an hour to gain experience. But no one will hire him because the law says you can't pay him less than $15 an hour. That job never shows up in the stats, but it matters, especially for people who are trying to get their foot in the door.
We quit hiring people without experience. Minimum wage jobs are an entry-level job to get someone some experience to do something. You raise that high enough, you cut those people out of the market completely.
When California's minimum wage rose to $8 an hour, he stopped hiring new people. Low-wage jobs used to be a way for kids and the unskilled to get into the labor force, to prove themselves. Most every gas station used to offer free window cleaning. Not anymore. The construction industry used to be a place teens could get a foot in the door, learn the discipline of regular work. But the minimum wage left many teens out of jobs. No wonder teen unemployment is now 25%.
In other words, the minimum wage could be quietly pushing unemployment higher than it would have been otherwise, even if the headline numbers don't look alarming. So when people point to stable unemployment and say, "See, no harm done," they're ignoring the opportunity cost, all the jobs that never existed because of that law. Plus, if raising the minimum wage by government works so well, why stop at $15? Why not $25, $50, $100? Ask that to a minimum wage advocate. They'll dodge the question because deep down they know it doesn't work. They know there's a limit. If they truly believe that the minimum wage doesn't affect unemployment, there would be no limit. The fact that there is one proves the whole concept is flawed. From the Austrian perspective, value isn't some fixed number decided by the state. Value is subjective. What something is worth depends on what someone is actually willing to pay for it. So if the worker's productivity is worth $10 an hour to a business, and the law says they must get paid $15 an hour, then that person simply won't get hired. That's a cold, hard reality that the left tries to ignore. Another argument I hear from people who support the minimum wage is, if we got rid of the minimum wage, companies would just pay everyone $2 an hour and make everyone even poorer. But this argument completely ignores how the job market actually works. It assumes that businesses can pay whatever they want without facing any consequences. That's simply not true. If companies really could get away with paying everyone as little as possible, then every company would already be paying the bare minimum wage right now. But that's not what we see in the real world. Plenty of jobs already pay more than the minimum wage. And they do it voluntarily, without being forced by law. Why? Because they have to compete for workers. In a free market, labor is a product just like anything else. If a company offers terrible pay, workers can and will quit and go work somewhere better. That's the key difference between a free market and a slave plantation. People can leave. If one business is offering $2 an hour and another is offering $15 an hour for the same type of work, which do you think people are going to choose? The business that pays only $2 will quickly find itself with no workers, no staff, and no ability to function. So companies don't just pay people more out of kindness, they do it because they have to. It's competition that protects wages, not government mandates. The market rewards businesses that treat workers well enough to attract and keep them, and punishes those that don't. The fear that everyone would just get paid poverty wages assumes that workers have no choices, and that businesses don't need to compete. But in reality, if businesses want good workers, they have to make decent offers. That's why wages in many industries are already above the legal minimum, even in states with no state-level minimum wage at all.
Now, you pay most of your workers above minimum wage.
Well, about half's above, and about the other half is hostess.
So
and
why
busboys.
pay any of them above minimum wage? You don't have to.
Well, they've learned skills in their work life that if I don't pay them that, someone else will pay them more, and that's because of the knowledge they've learned.
You have to pay them more because of competition.
Absolutely.
To keep them.
Absolutely.
Something called the free market. Who thought that that could raise people's wages?
So no, getting rid of the minimum wage doesn't mean everyone suddenly earns less. It just means wages are set by supply and demand, not by politicians who think they could rewrite economic reality. And there's another issue here people don't talk about. Not everyone works just for the money. Some people are willing to take lower wages because they're gaining experience, building a resume, or they value the flexibility of the job. The minimum wage makes all of those arrangements illegal. It forces one-size-fits-all policies onto millions of different people with different goals and needs. That's why Rothbard called minimum wage laws compulsory unemployment. It's not about helping workers. It's about restricting freedom. It's about making it illegal for two people to voluntarily agree on a contract just because a third party, the state, doesn't like the numbers. And let's be clear about who gets hurt the most. It's not big corporations. It's not rich people. It's the poor, the young, the people trying to get their foot in the door. They're the first to be fired, the last to be hired, and the ones priced out of the market when the government meddles with wages. So again puts it bluntly, the most basic question is not what is best, but who shall decide what is best. And when it comes to your job, your contract, and your paycheck, the answer should be you, not a politician or bureaucrat. In some cases, people will turn to the black market, working off the books just to survive. No protection, no stability, and no recourse. So to wrap this up, the minimum wage isn't just bad economics. It's immoral. It crushes individual freedom, kills opportunity, and makes life harder for the exact people it claims to help. That's why I, and many other anarcho-capitalist libertarians, believe we should completely abolish the minimum wage. Let people work. Let people choose. Let the market decide what a job is worth, not bureaucrats who have never run a business in their lives. The great Murray Rothbard said it best. In truth, there's only one way to regard a minimum wage law. It's compulsory unemployment, period. The law says it is illegal, and therefore criminal, for anyone to hire anyone below the level of X dollars an hour. This means, plainly and simply, that a large number of free and voluntary wage contracts are now outlawed, and hence that there will be a large amount of unemployment. Remember that the minimum wage law provides no jobs. It only outlaws them, and outlawed jobs are the inevitable result. Alright guys, thank you guys so much for watching my video on the minimum wage. I was really inspired to make this video because I kept hearing a lot of people complaining about how the federal minimum wage is just so low, and that if only we raised the minimum wage to X dollars an hour, the world would just be right as rain, and that there would be no issues, and everybody would just be better off, and yada yada yada. And honestly, I was just getting tired of people complaining about the minimum wage and talking about it and acting as if, you know, there's no downsides and nothing but good sides to it. You know, that's the main reason why I wanted to make this video, because I was just tired of people making that argument. And I also wanted to debunk all of these arguments that a lot of these people make, and the arguments that I hear people make who support having a minimum wage law. So if you guys really like the video, be sure to drop a like and subscribe and do all the things to help me out in the algorithm, and I'll see you guys all next time. Austrian economists, wait, let me read that one more time. Austrian economists like Ludwig von Mises pointed out ages ago that minimum wage laws don't create jobs. They just make certain... I think I mispronounced his name. Let me try that again. Austrian economists like Ludwig von... Ugh. I wish I could just say Mises, but I don't know. I feel like people won't know if I just say Mises. Austrian economists like Ludwig von Mises, Ludwig pointed out ages ago that Ludwig von Mises. Meanwhile, the mom and pop I said that completely wrong. Meanwhile, mom and pop store. The mom and pop store down the street. Got you. These businesses get crushed under the weight of These businesses get crushed under the weight of forced wage. Ugh. These small businesses get crushed under the weight of these small businesses get crushed under the weight of forced wage hikes. It's when big businesses use government God, I can't do this. I want to kill myself. It's when big businesses use government. I can't say big businesses. I'm gonna die. It's when big businesses use government regulation as a weapon to lock out competitors, not just government mandates. Not by politicians who think they can rewrite economic. Damn you. Why are you texting me?
And remember, like and subscribe.